2027 will be a big anniversary year for the live-action Transformers movies. It's the 20th anniversary of the original 2007 film and the 10th anniversary of The Last Knight, the, as of right now, final movie in the franchise directed by Michael Bay. And while Bay is supposedly developing a new Transformers movie with Paramount, it's one of several projects they have in development, and when or if it'll ever come out is currently unknown. At the very least, the lack of announcement for the movie at this year's CinemaCon and toy leaks for 2027 not containing any new movie figures means that it probably won't make it in time for the anniversary. But what if there was one last Bayverse movie hitting theaters next year? Something that could wrap up all the lingering plot threads and characters from the first 5 films, allowing either the retro movie timeline to continue forward on its own path, or set the stage for a complete reboot of the Transformers movie universe. What would that look like? What should it look like? How should the Bayverse end? To figure that out, we need to take stock of what we actually have from the first 5 movies. Obviously, the biggest lingering plot thread is Unicron inside the Earth, but that's not really the most important thing to deal with. Unicron was just one element of one movie, and starting from how does Unicron get defeated would only make this a sequel to that film. Instead, we have to take a look at all 5 movies and see if there's anything in common, any themes running through the entire series that could be resolved by one more film to make it more than just the final paragraph of the Bayverse's TF Wiki plot synopsis. To start with, the Transformers movies are very American stories, and they deal with very specific American fears. The post-9/11 years were a huge part of the DNA of these movies and are partially why the films even exist at all. Producer Don Murphy actually began developing a G.I. Joe movie with Hasbro in 2003, but when the United States invaded Iraq, Hasbro suggested exploring a movie about the Transformers instead. But even though the explicit connection to G.I. Joe was dropped, the movie we got still had a huge focus on a group of heroic military soldiers fighting aliens in the Middle East. As the films go on, the framing shifts to see the Transformers, broadly, as immigrants. The Decepticons are a monstrous alien other that wants to invade and reproduce to the point of overrunning humanity, while the Autobots are a kind of magical, perfect good immigrant. A model minority that not only doesn't seem interested in reproducing and doesn't use any of Earth's resources, but actively sabotages their own species' existence to help humanity and shares their technology with Earth's military. The Autobots are fully willing to abandon being Cybertronian and assimilate into Earth culture. But in the 4th and 5th movies, even the good immigrants are hunted by xenophobic militias who use a national tragedy as an excuse to kill anyone who's not from there. By the 5th film, even the imprisoned Decepticons are mostly a lovable gang of scamps, and Megatron, once the most feared Decepticon of them all, is willing to sit through negotiations with lawyers as an agent of the US military. The major threats aren't a dangerous horde of immigrants. They're CIA kill squads, American tech CEOs, and unfathomable environmental changes. And I think that change to a more sympathetic view of the alien invaders suggests a certain kind of anxiety. Even when the Decepticons were simply the other, they were a technologically superior force that was going to colonize the Earth and kill its native species. They aren't just your standard anti-immigrant fear-mongering. They're using the language of that fear-mongering to speculate that what America did in the past might happen to them in the future. And especially in the 4th film, the metaphor has been stripped away, and the threat that needs to be stopped is just things America is doing right now. And connected to that, these movies, despite their gargantuan visual effects budgets, are also very wary of technology. In the 2007 movie, it stated that most modern technology was created by studying Megatron's frozen body, and as a result, when human-made devices are brought to life by the Allspark, they turn into feral monsters. Age of Extinction's broadly stated theme is some things should never be invented, and Joshua Joyce's pursuit of new technology will inevitably lead to a human extinction event on par to what happened with the dinosaurs. In The Last Knight, Earth's best scientific minds are unable to prevent an impending apocalypse, and the solution is to regress, to embody the virtues of ancient knights who perceived technology as magic and whose space robot allies took the form of a primordial dragon rather than technologically advanced war machines. So when we take those colonialist anxieties and fear of technology and mash them together, we get a series of movies that could be read as saying that the weapons someone uses to subjugate others will inevitably be turned against them by someone else. And that actually makes perfect sense considering the very first Transformer we see in the entire series is Blackout, who disguises himself as an American military helicopter to attack an American military base. To address this theme in our hypothetical finale sequel, I think we'd need to see that cycle be broken. But how do we do that? Well, the world of the Bayverse is staring down the barrel of an existential emergency, and what do you do in an emergency? You break glass. Shattered glass is a Transformers concept that's been around for almost 2 decades. First introduced as the theme of 2008's BotCon convention exclusive Toys and Stories, Shattered Glass is essentially the Transformers version of Star Trek's mirror universe. The good guys are bad, the bad guys are good, and everyone gets their toy repainted in new colors. By invoking Shattered Glass, we can tell a story where humanity has to fight its own dark mirror. The colonizers aren't some alien other, it's them. And the path they took could be one that our protagonist universe could follow as well, if it's not careful. It's also a multiverse story in an era where the multiverse is very popular. The Transformers movies have always been the product of the time they're made. The 2007 movies' robot redesigns were the Transformers equivalent of other embarrassed of the source material superhero redesigns. Dark of the Moon came out at a time when every movie apparently needed a big blue beam shooting into the sky. Age of Extinction was one of several American films at that time that were scrambling to make themselves more friendly to China's box office. And The Last Knight was not only released at a time when Hollywood was obsessed with King Arthur for some reason, it also crammed Rey and BB-8 from Star Wars into its story. So doing a multiverse movie right now seems kind of on the money. But Shattered Glass has been noticeably absent from the wider world of Transformers storytelling. It's never appeared in the cartoons or ongoing comics, instead being relegated to standalone miniseries or fan club stories. If we're trying to come up with a finale movie for the Bayverse, it should still feel like a Bayverse movie and make the same sorts of choices when it comes to what to include. So, would Shattered Glass be too obscure to show up in these films, which don't usually concern themselves with really deep lore references? Well, was anyone expecting the Fallen, who at that point had only shown up in a handful of Dreamwave comics, to be the main villain of the first movie's sequel? Deep pulls for the movie franchise aren't super common, but they do happen. And Shattered Glass is venerable enough to feel like the right level of obscure to pull from. Now that we've got the big ideas, the major theme, and the Shattered Glass gimmick, what should actually happen in the final Bayverse movie? Well, despite being Transformers movies, the stories aren't really about the Transformers, and the bulk of the character development and storytelling happens at the human level, with the robots mostly being saved for the big action sequences. And this is fundamentally an issue of cost. In other sci-fi comic book style movies, the main characters are usually still people, and the cost of putting them on screen is just whatever you're paying the actors. But with Transformers, every robot needs to be designed, built, rigged, animated, rendered, and comped by a team of artists, and every shot takes weeks, if not months, to put together. If you want to make a Transformers movie that's actually about the Transformers, you've got 3 options. A fully animated movie like Transformers 1, which is more cost-effective by not having to be photorealistic. A smaller scale film like Bumblebee, which keeps costs down by focusing on only a few robots, aside from blowing $35 million on 4 minutes of Cybertron footage. Or you balloon the budget up to something like the Avatar movies, which cost more to make than Transformers films can reliably earn at the box office these days. So the final Bayverse movie would also need a human story to drive the plot. In the first 3 films, we saw Sam Witwicky grow from a teenager to a college student to an adult entering the workforce. And then in the 4th and 5th films with Cade Yeager, we had an adult who didn't want his own daughter to grow up and then had to deal with what his life was going to be after she left home. I don't think continuing to make the protagonist even older would really work for an action-packed Transformers movie, and with the franchise having lasted long enough to enter legacy sequel territory, rolling back to the teenage child of the original protagonist makes sense. So our story can be about the son of Sam. No, not David Berkowitz, Daniel, whose name we can borrow from the 1986 animated movie. We wouldn't want to just do Sam's character arc all over again, but there are some things we can learn from what he went through that can help us figure out what Daniel's story could be. In the first movie, Sam's journey basically boils down to no sacrifice, no victory, introduced as the Witwicky family motto. At the start of the film, Sam is willing to sell family heirlooms just to get a car, and as an almost cosmic punishment, he's forced to live out the family motto and become someone who's willing to put his life on the line to protect the Autobots' own precious artifact, or sacrifice the artifact to save the lives of the Autobots themselves. In Revenge of the Fallen, Sam's problem is reluctance. He's reluctant to commit to Michaela, and he's reluctant to commit to the Autobots, but the movie has decided that he's going to be the protagonist, and he needs to get with the program. Optimus tells him that fate rarely calls upon us at a moment of our choosing, and when Sam dies and goes to robot heaven, the Primes tell him that his role in the whole affair had always been his destiny. Once he accepts his destiny, he's also willing to tell Michaela that he loves her, and the matrix of leadership reassembles itself so Sam can resurrect Optimus. In Dark of the Moon, we see Sam dealing with the fact that nobody else cares about his destiny. He's proved himself as a world-saving hero twice, and he feels that he deserves a certain amount of status because of that, feeling demeaned when he has to get an entry-level mailroom job. He's gone from being a hero to being a messenger, though he accepts that role by the end of the film, and his triumph isn't about saving the world, but about beating up his girlfriend's boss. The movies were playing keep away with Sam's happiness. Don't care about your family heirlooms? Sorry, here's your punishment so you learn to appreciate what you have. Want to go back to a normal life after saving the planet? Oops, it's actually your destiny to die in the robot war. Finally accept your destiny as a noble hero? You know what? Nobody cares. Go get a job and work your way up like the rest of us. After all that, it's no wonder he just noped out of the last two movies. And no, Sam didn't die after Dark of the Moon. This is a popular fan misconception, but in The Last Night, Edmund Burton says two things: that the Order of Witwickens protected the secret history of Transformers on Earth, and that the founder of the Order, the Wizard Merlin, only has one living descendant. Some fans have taken this to mean that every Witwicken is dead, and that because Sam's picture was shown during the montage of its members, he's dead too. But that just isn't supported by what's on screen. Burton himself is a member of the Order, and he's very clearly still alive. He's just not a descendant of Merlin. The sequence also shows pictures of Stephen Hawking, Al Gore, and Queen Elizabeth, all of whom were also still alive when the movie was released. Clearly, Sam just retired. He avoided being jerked around by the narrative of the films by not being in them anymore. But what does that mean for Daniel? Since we're dealing with shattered glass and the idea of mirrored characters, it would make sense for Daniel to be a reflection of Sam's journey. While Sam was ignorant and dismissive of his family history and got thrown into an adventure to make him appreciate it, Daniel would be all too aware of his dad's past with the Transformers and would seek out the adventure that his father kept trying to distance himself from. He wouldn't want a car, he'd want a bumblebee. And he wouldn't be dismissive of the family motto. He would think it means a life of safety is a life without meaning. And while we know who Daniel's dad is, who's his mom? There's really only two options, Carly or Michaela. Carly is maybe the cleanest option. She and Sam were together at the end of Dark of the Moon after all, but this is Sam Witwicky we're talking about. He was already trying to downplay the seriousness of their relationship at the end of the film, and his relationship with Michaela is proof that just because you go through a lot of stuff with someone, it doesn't mean other issues can't get away of happily ever after. Sam couldn't even accept that his girlfriend made more money than he did. It also makes the timeline a little weird. If we want the movie to come out and be set in 2027, and if we want Daniel to be old enough to get his first car, then Carly would need to have been extremely pregnant during Dark of the Moon, which she was not. But Michaela also has her own challenges. She's certainly the more iconic of the two, and is the one that fans would want to see returning to the series, but did she and Sam just get back together later and have a kid? That would have even worse timeline issues than if Carly was Daniel's mom. So I don't think Sam and Michaela ever did get back together. For the purposes of this story, I think that Michaela would have already been pregnant when they broke up between the second and third movies. Michaela was always a very independent character, and according to Dark of the Moon, she was the one who initiated the breakup. So maybe she found out she was pregnant, and knowing that Sam is a neurotic mess at the best of times, didn't tell him right away, instead posing it as a hypothetical question. What would you think about having kids? Sam, not being able to infer what she was really saying, would rattle off a list of reasons why it's a bad idea for a college student in a long-distance relationship who regularly gets dragged into giant robot battles to become a father. And he would probably word it very poorly. So Michaela would say, okay, he doesn't want to do this, and break up with him, making the decision to raise the kid on her own. Sam doesn't want kids, he doesn't have to know he has one. But eventually, Sam would have found out. Maybe she told Ron and Judy about their grandson and they spilled the beans, or maybe she reached out to him after the Battle of Chicago, since if he was gonna keep almost getting himself killed by robots, he at least deserved to know he had a son. Or maybe when the government started hunting Transformers and their allies, Sam reached out to Michaela to warn her, and he found out that way. But however it happened, in this story, we can say that Sam's been trying to co-parent with Michaela, and he spent the first several years of his son's life doing everything he could to avoid giant alien robots. Sam and Michaela wouldn't have gotten back together, but I don't think he'd still be with Carly either. Maybe him having a kid freaked her out, or maybe they just drifted apart because Sam is Sam. Either way, he's in the divorced dad phase of his life, despite never having been married. But the civilian stuff isn't the only major human element of the Bayverse, so we would also need a B-side to the story, and in these movies that usually means someone from the military. Historically, William Lennox is the face of the military in these movies, but this is a legacy sequel dealing with the next generation of characters. So the face of the military side of the story could be his daughter, who actually appeared as a baby in the first film, but hasn't been seen since. The film's novelization named her Annabelle, but I think we can call her Marissa, as a nod to Marissa Fairborn, who is a member of the Earth Defense Command in the third season of the G1 cartoon, and was supposedly the daughter of a couple of G.I. Joe characters. And with Marissa, we'd have an opportunity to take advantage of the movie's shattered glass gimmick, and make her allied with the Autobots in the Shattered Glass universe. The fourth and fifth movies gave a more adversarial role to the military characters, with Cemetery Wind being a CIA-affiliated Black Ops group, and the TRF continuing their task to hunt down Transformers, so putting our military POV character into the mirror universe and even making her initially on the side of the bad guys would be an extension of that evolution. And now that we've got all of the human side of things, what about the Transformers themselves? These are, after all, Transformers movies, even if they're not the main characters. And there is a whole heaping helping of Transformers lore that we have to deal with. The point of this video is to ask how the Bayverse should end, which means making sure that the final chapter of the story is actually satisfying and ties everything together. The movies have, so far, introduced 3 separate origins for the Transformers: the Allspark, the Creator Aliens, and Quintessa. The Transformers god Primus, at least up to this point, doesn't seem to exist in this universe, and Quintessa appears to be the Bayverse equivalent to Quintus Prime, who in some continuities was said to be the creators of the Quintessons, the robotic aliens who created the Transformers in the Generation 1 cartoon. So let's say that's true here as well. At some point in the distant past, we can say that Quintessa tried her hand at playing God and engineered a race of creatures to serve her. As for the Allspark, it would make sense if Quintessa made that as well. Its ability to bring machines to life is pretty similar to the Ember Stone that Quintus Prime tends to use in the wider lore, and the machines brought to life by the Allspark or its shard would be the Bayverse equivalent of the Terrans from the Earthspark cartoon. Optimus did say that the Allspark existed before time began and nobody knew where it came from, but I think we can assume that he's just taking some poetic license with it. He also doesn't know who Quintessa is when he first meets her, so there are definitely some gaps in his knowledge, and there doesn't seem to be an Alpha Trion in this universe to write everything down. Or is there? In the current lore, the Transformers as a species began with the 13 Primes created by Primus to battle Unicron, and while these Primes were featured in Revenge of the Fallen, there were only 7. The Fallen, and the 6 others who sacrificed their lives on Earth to stop him from activating the Solar Harvester. For a while, it seemed like in the Bayverse, those missing 6 Primes just didn't exist. But now we've also got Quintessa, who calls herself the Prime of Life, and there's some evidence that she's not the only other Prime floating around out there. In the behind-the-scenes material for The Last Night, there's a few glimpses of the writer's room that Paramount put together to help come up with ideas for future movies. And visible on one of the lore boards scattered around the room is a mention that Onyx Prime was imprisoned aboard a starship by Alpha Trion, which eventually crashed to Earth in the distant past. But is this canon? I don't think so. Onyx Prime is usually the progenitor of Transformers that turn into animals, and that big dragon in The Last Night who lived in a crashed starship on Earth feels like something that might have evolved from an early idea about Onyx Prime. What it does mean, though, is that these movies aren't just limiting themselves to the 7 Primes from Revenge of the Fallen, and other members from that full roster of 13 could still appear somewhere, which brings us, finally, to the start of our story. The movie can begin, like the other Bayverse films, with a flashback to the distant past, the age of the Primes. In this era, Primus and Unicron are two minds at war within a single, planet-sized body. On its surface, the Primes, the children of Primus, do battle against the feral Terrorcon spawn of Unicron. The war has already taken a cosmic toll, and continuing the battle, even if it means defeating Unicron, may be too costly. So Vector Prime, one of the surviving ancient warriors, makes a decision. He uses a powerful artifact, the Blade of Time, to split Primus and Unicron apart into separate realities, leaving each of them dormant as they're separated from one another, ensuring neither will reawaken for hundreds of millions of years. Vector Prime is torn apart and destroyed by the effort, with his blade stuck, lodged in the crack between universes. As rote as it is, these movies lean heavily on mystical Cybertronian artifacts to drive the plot, and Vector Prime's sword will be the MacGuffin for this movie. But as the universe is duplicated, so are each of the remaining Primes. In the universe with Unicron, the Primes vow to destroy all knowledge of his location so that his awakening may be delayed as long as possible. Of course, they end up stumbling across it a couple of times again, and Quintessa eventually finds out where he is, but this is their plan, and they assume their mirror counterparts will do the same with Primus. But they're wrong. Just as Primus and Unicron were two halves of the same being, so do the Primes contain both darkness and light, with the opposite Primes left to guide the future of their universe on the other side of the mirror. After the prologue, we need a quick catch-up, similar to the ones in The Last Night or Dark of the Moon. At the end of The Last Night, Cybertron was tethered to Earth, and Optimus Prime sent a message out into space for the scattered Autobots to return home. Unicron's horns were emerging from the ground, and Quintessa had survived her attempt to drain the Earth's energy to restore Cybertron. So what happens 10 years later? Thematically, it makes sense for Cybertron to still be there. If the movies have an undercurrent about the fears of being colonized, having a massive alien planet literally chained to the Earth is a good way to visually express those fears. Plus, it's a planet, and those tend to be pretty hard to move. Unicron, having been dealt with between movies, would also be a pretty big cop-out, so I think he's still gonna have to be around. And if Cybertron is still chained to the Earth a decade later, but Unicron hasn't been dealt with, then that suggests that humans and Autobots haven't really been cooperating. I don't think things would have devolved into war, but the two worlds would probably have kept to themselves. The tether points on Earth would be heavily guarded by, let's say, the Earth Defense Command, and Transformer sightings on Earth would have become almost non-existent. And after the catch-up sequence that explains all this, we can jump over to California, where Daniel Baines is living with his mom, Michaela, who now runs her own garage and has been fixing up a car as a gift for Daniel's 16th birthday. Michaela's gift is also covering Sam's ass, as he may have strongly hinted but failed to deliver a brand new Energon-powered car manufactured by the company he now works for. See, in the years since The Last Night, those Unicron horns poking out of the ground haven't just been ignored. These movies like to include satirical takes on corporate culture, with Bruce Brazos being a bizarre take on Jeff Bezos and Joshua Joyce being an automotive-focused Steve Jobs. So for the 2020s version of the concept, the villainous CEO Noel Scum has begun mining Unicron's horns for the Energon within and developed prohibitively expensive Energon-based cars that allegedly can run for years on a single charge. Sam, who's worked his way up to a management position in Scum's company, had wanted to buy his son the expensive but normal car he missed out on as a teenager. Sam's decided that the best way to keep Daniel out of danger is to make sure he's taken care of financially, and he's prioritized work over actually being there for his son, so Sam's not even at the party. Instead, he's attending via video call from the office while trying to hit an impending deadline. Daniel's disappointed, but Sam's disappointed him a lot over the course of his life. And mostly he was just hoping his car would be a Transformer. At the office, Sam is the manager of a team of frazzled scientists and engineers who are trying to get the office connected to Noel Scum's Energon grid, a global plan to get every country in the world to come to him for all of their electricity needs. Scum oversees the operation from his own video screen, putting pressure on the team to rush their work so they can do a test before the impending global launch of the network. Sam has to drop out of Daniel's birthday to help the team get everything hooked up, but as they rush to meet Scum's demands, they make some mistakes along the way. So when Scum activates the network from his distant command center, there's an overload at the California facility and fissures start to appear in reality. Then something breaks through. A Transformer, wearing a Decepticon crest, appears on the floor. Sam screams for security as he tries to get his team out, and Scum's paramilitary security forces rush in to attack the robot, suspiciously prepared to fight a Transformer. The Decepticon fires back, fighting the security team before blowing a hole in the wall and escaping into the night. Back at Daniel's birthday party, Daniel sees a news alert about an explosion at Scum's building and knows that's where his dad works, so he takes his new car and races over. When he arrives, he parks beyond a gathering crowd and a swarm of emergency vehicles, but as a novice driver, he forgets to put the car in park before getting out and rushing through the crowd, so the vehicle rolls backwards down a hill as a large figure with glowing red eyes watches, hidden in the bushes. Sam is trying to talk to the police, adamant that he saw a Decepticon and that he needs to get in touch with the EDC. The police aren't really buying it, since there haven't been any Transformers on Earth for a decade. Daniel's arrival manages to divert Sam from his rambling, and he apologizes profusely to Daniel for missing the party. Rattled but unharmed, Sam gets into his son's car, now seemingly back at the top of the hill, and they drive away. Meanwhile, Noel Scum is doing damage control. He's already on the phone with now General Lennox of the Earth Defense Command and U.S. Secretary of Defense Morshower. Scum's energon mining is already something the EDC is concerned about, and an accident in the middle of the city is a major red flag, especially when people are already saying that a Decepticon was involved. Scum downplays the Transformers' involvement and blames it on the local manager there, assuring them that he's already been fired. He then asks one of his subordinates, a woman named Quinn, played by Gemma Chan, who that manager was, and she tells him it was Sam Witwicky, something that catches Lennox's interest. When Scum cuts the call, he returns to the security footage from Sam's office and curses at the Decepticon on the feed, plain as day. Quinn assures him that Lennox has no idea what's really going on. After hanging up, Lennox leaves the EDC command center and goes outside, revealing a massive complex built around Stonehenge with Cybertron hanging in the sky above, anchored by massive pieces of the planet itself. Lennox steps into an Osprey helicopter, because these movies have to have an Osprey in them somewhere, and is transported up to the surface of Cybertron. Daniel and Sam then get back to Michaela's place, where Sam and Michaela finally reunite on screen. Sam starts urging her to pack up and move, because if the Decepticons are back, then it's not safe to be anywhere nearby. Michaela is more level-headed about it, saying that if it's just one Decepticon, it's probably not a problem and the EDC can handle it, but Sam disagrees. This guy teleported in from somewhere, and he suspects that there's more to come. Daniel overhears the conversation and is excited that the Transformers are back, but Sam reminds him that he had to sever some very important friendships to keep Daniel safe, and he's not about to ruin that now, so he says they're going to get in the car and drive as far away as they can. Michaela's not going to drop her whole life just because her ex-boyfriend got spooked by a robot, and Daniel wants to see a Transformer up close, so they shoot down the idea of a hasty escape. Since Sam is scared though, Michaela agrees to let him crash on the couch. Lennox then lands on Cybertron, where the Autobots are still working on repairs to the planet. He's met by Bumblebee, who has a new Cybertronian design, and taken to meet Optimus, who also sports a new look that abandons his previous Earth-based vehicle modes. In the Autobot command center, Optimus welcomes his old ally and asks how his family's been, and wonders why it's taken so long for him, or anyone from Earth, to visit. Lennox gives a curt reply. His daughter's in college and his wife started a food blog, and says that Sam Witwicky was just involved in an energon accident. Prime and Bumblebee are concerned, but Lennox assures them that Sam's fine, though the accident was connected to Noel Scum's mining of energon from Unicron's body. The Autobots reiterate that they've warned against mining Unicron and have been monitoring the slumbering Titan for signs that he might awaken. They also noticed the surge of energon across the planet that preceded the accident, but have respected humanity's wishes to learn from their own mistakes. Lennox says there's something else. Police reports indicate that Sam claimed a Decepticon was responsible for the accident. Optimus is in disbelief. Megatron is dead and the Decepticons have disbanded. There are none left. Still, Lennox is concerned. If Sam says a Decepticon was involved, he's probably right. Lennox then gets to the point of his visit. He's been an opponent of Scum for years, but Scum has the EDC's political commanders wrapped around his finger with promises of unlimited energy for humanity. He says that he can get access to a plane that has room for a small team of Autobots, and he wants them to go to Earth to investigate, and to make sure that Sam's okay. Optimus agrees, and given his relationship with Sam, asks Bumblebee to lead the squad. So let's talk about Autobots. The robots in these movies tend to follow a particular theme when they're introduced. The 2007 film had characters from Generation 1, Revenge of the Fallen had a focus on combining, Dark of the Moon's weaponized Stealth Force vehicle modes were taken to their extreme with the Wreckers, and Age of Extinction's main Autobot crew were alternate interpretations of the concept of knights, keying off Optimus and the Dinobots, with Drift being a samurai, Hound being an American military soldier, and Crosshairs being some kind of unclear mishmash of paratrooper and secret agent. We should also have some kind of a central theme for the new Autobots, and since this is a legacy sequel that deals with families, we can make the new Autobots an odd kind of family, with a crotchety old drill sergeant grandfather, an overbearing commanding mother, and a sullen rookie teenager. We can also use the previous characters as a template to figure out what kind of Autobots these new ones would be. Hound had the name of a G1 character, but everything else about him, from his appearance to his personality, was more suited to Bulkhead. So our world-weary old soldier can be Cup in everything but name. He'll be called Ultra Magnus. Crosshairs also had the name of a pre-existing character, but it was kind of randomly used, and it had more to do with his personality than any intentional connection to its originator. So the aggressive mother of the group can be called Road Rage. The third character can take some cues from Drift. When Age of Extinction came out, Drift was a newer character for the brand, and despite some initial backlash from fans, he'd become pretty well liked by the time he appeared in the movie. But what fans of the character got with Drift's on-screen appearance was, to put it lightly, a pretty tone-deaf interpretation of the character's archetype. So if we want to do something similar, we can use Nightshade, who was initially the subject of a manufactured controversy about being a non-binary robot, but ended up being well-liked by the people who actually watched the show they were in. Like Drift, this Nightshade would look nothing like their namesake, and their non-binary nature would be played for laughs as a dig at teenage contrarianism. Once the team is assembled, they need alt modes. Cybertronians are barred from Earth, so they'll need to be robots in disguise. Luckily, there's a collector of Earth memorabilia on Cybertron who's managed to smuggle a sizable car collection off-planet. It's a similar role to Day Trader from The Last Night, but I think he'd be a new character to help keep things fresh. So we can say he's voiced by Peter Stormare instead of Steve Buscemi, since Bayverse movies need at least one Coen Brothers actor in there somewhere. Back in California, after Daniel's party winds down, he sneaks out of the house and gets in his car, patrolling the streets trying to find the Decepticon his dad saw. He starts by returning to the scene of the accident at Scum's facility, which is now crawling with his paramilitary security force, this movie's version of Cemetery Wind or the TRF, and Scum himself arrives via helicopter. Scum investigates the site of the accident and sees the clear evidence of a giant robot attack. With mentions of Decepticons already leaking to the police, he tells his team to pay a visit to anyone who is on site so he can buy their silence, or intimidate them into not speaking. Quinn is also there, and she tells Scum about some of the odd readings she's getting, then adjusts the security team's energon detectors to match. They start going off, pointing right to Daniel's car. Daniel doesn't know what's going on, only that there's a bunch of guys with guns coming after him, so he gets scared and drives off. But that only makes him look guilty. So Scum's security forces give chase in their own armored vehicles. Daniel tries his best to evade them, but he's swerving all over the road, and eventually the car is forced to take over. Daniel assumes that his dad didn't flake out after all and got him a transformer for his birthday, asking the car if it's Bumblebee or Optimus Prime before correcting himself. Optimus is a truck, so he must be Bumblebee in disguise. Once they've lost their tail and are safely back home, Daniel rushes inside and wakes up Sam, forgetting about the harrowing chase and excited that Bumblebee showed up for his birthday. And because this is a Bayverse movie, we need some sort of product placement in there somewhere. So when Daniel tries to wake his dad up, it takes a bit of effort because Sam is getting deep, restful sleep thanks to the sponsor of this video, Manta Sleep. After spending years dodging Decepticons, Sam's got a lot of trauma built up, and that can make it hard for him to get through the night sometimes. But because he's wearing a Manta Sleep mask, he is out. The adjustable eye cups mean there's no pressure on his eyes or eyelids, and their 100% blackout means that he can recover from late nights at the office poring over data and being harassed by his boss on bright video screens in darkened labs. And because Sam's so frugal, he got his mask for 10% off by clicking the link in the description of this video and using my promo code EmpireWreckers. Somehow. The commotion wakes Michaela, who agrees with Sam's assessment of the Manta Sleep masks but doesn't know what Daniel's going on about. Sam spots the Decepticon badge on the car when he goes out to take a closer look and frantically gets the family to run. The car chases after them, but it doesn't hurt them. When it's got them cornered, it transforms into the robot Sam saw earlier and it asks for help. The injured Decepticon says his name is Breakdown, and that Noel Scum has been helping the Resistance and Megatron sent him to collect a shipment of Energon from his office. There was this bright flash and suddenly people were attacking him, so he ran, and he disguised himself as Daniel's car to hide. The humans are concerned. Megatron's supposed to be dead, but Scum's helping him? And a resistance against what? Well, Breakdown tells them, against the Autobots. They've taken over the planet, though the planet looks a lot less taken over tonight. The humans bring Breakdown up to speed. Optimus is one of the good guys, and the Autobots have been on Cybertron for the past decade. The world is definitely not being taken over. Breakdown scans his surroundings and realizes something. He's in the wrong universe. Now, we get to see that universe. From our Los Angeles skyline, we match cut to the Shattered Glass equivalent, a war-torn battlefield where buildings are destroyed, most of the city's lights are dead, and the Los Angeles haze has been replaced by a sky full of stars and Cybertron in orbit, fully intact. A team of humans dressed in military gear adorned with Autobot badges stalk through the darkened streets towards this world's California Scum office, where they detected an unauthorized Energon surge. They're led by Marissa Lennox, who wears her dead father's dog tags, and accompanied by Recluse, a spindly Junkion robot whose ability to reassemble himself after taking damage will be cut from the movie, but still be part of his toy. Recluse is the weird little freak robot of this film, similar to Frenzy, Wheelie, Brains, or Mohawk. And because every Bayverse movie needs a bit of bizarre racism, he'll speak with a weird southern accent that even Larry the Cable Guy would find offensive. As the group approaches the building, they keep alert for Decepticons. Where there's one, there's usually more. They hear a skittering, and their flashlights briefly catch a glint of metal that disappears into an alley. They follow it and are blasted by headlights as the skittering robot, Frenzy, hides behind Barricade, who transforms and attacks the squad. The soldiers shoot back as Barricade demands to know where Breakdown is. The soldiers' advanced weapons pierce Barricade's metal and he's forced to retreat, but Marissa isn't just going to let a Decepticon escape. Recluse transforms into a motorcycle and Marissa hops on, giving chase through the desolate streets of Los Angeles. A sonic boom in the sky sounds, and Marissa warns her team that the Decepticons have air support, just as Starscream drops from the sky. Ironhide's engines rev from behind another building, and a brawl begins between the two robots as Marissa continues trying to hunt down Barricade. Unfortunately, separated from her squad, Barricade is able to lure her into a trap and corner her, kidnapping both her and Recluse as Starscream gives his life for Barricade to escape. Back on the other side of the mirror, Breakdown is sitting in Michaela's driveway, while the three humans argue inside. Sam isn't willing to believe that he's a good Decepticon from an alternate universe, but Daniel says that if he was gonna kill him, he could have already. Sam retorts that they're Decepticons, lying is their whole thing. Michaela is on the fence. They've met Decepticons who have changed sides before, and this isn't really any stranger than the time Sam went to Robot Heaven. Then there's a knock at the door. Scum's corporate fixers have tracked Sam's phone to Michaela's place and arrived to buy his silence or intimidate him into shutting up. Sam, insulted at having his phone tracked to the place his son lives, blows up at them, causing them to tase him in the balls and drag him into their car. They threaten Michaela and Daniel, but once they drive away, Daniel's already inside Breakdown, ready to go. With Breakdown's help, Daniel and Michaela extract Sam from the moving vehicle and escape, though not before Breakdown is revealed to Scum's men to be a transformer. Once they're safe, the team regroups to catch their breath and figure out exactly what is going on. Scum's Energon network seems to be breaking reality enough for weird Decepticons to crash through, and Daniel wants to find a way to stop it so he can help Breakdown get home. Sam's reluctant to get involved in another robot adventure, but Michaela chides him. In 30 years, doesn't he want to look back and say he had the guts to get in the car? Sam relents and suggests paying a visit to Scum's Energon car factory in Texas, which is the next site to be tested for the Energon network. At Scum's mysterious command center, which seems to be in a quarry or a mine somewhere, he and Quinn have returned from Los Angeles, with Scum frustrated to hear that Witwicky got away and that the Decepticon helped them. Sam also seems to have trashed his phone, so they don't have a good way to track him down. Quinn suggests using the Energon network. Her Energon detectors could be boosted by connecting directly to the grid, and they need to make up lost time from the previous night's accident. Scum agrees and orders the Texas factory's test to be pulled up. In the other universe, Marissa is taken to Hoover Dam, where Megatron leads an underground resistance against the Autobots. Megatron has a different design in every movie, so he'd probably have a new look in this one as well. Barricade releases Marissa and Recluse, and Megatron interrogates her about the whereabouts of the scout Breakdown. She says she doesn't know where or even who Breakdown is, and was only following an unauthorized Energon surge. Megatron is concerned that their ally has betrayed them, so he orders Soundwave to contact this universe's Null Scum, who's currently with the Autobots and overseeing a project that they're running. He's scared to talk, but assures Megatron that he wasn't behind Breakdown's disappearance. He tells them that the Autobots are planning something big, and if they want to find Breakdown, they should go to the factory in Texas, though he warns them that the Human Alliance military will be guarding it, and they'll need high-level biometric security clearance to get access to the deepest levels. Noticing Marissa's dog tags, Megatron realizes he has just what they need. As the Baines family and Sam make their road trip through Texas, Breakdown starts to malfunction. He tells the humans that he took a couple of hits in LA, but he's been through worse scrapes. Michaela says that she doesn't want him living up to his name, so they need to find a way to get him fixed up without drawing attention. Daniel pipes up. What about Michaela's online friend, the mechanic? Sam gets a bit jealous, but Daniel can't say enough good things about the guy, including that he knows Optimus Prime. The group rolls into a small shop belonging to Cade Yeager. He's surprised but happy to see Michaela and Daniel, who he met through a small network of former Autobot allies on Earth. Despite Cade and Michaela's relationship being purely platonic, Sam still tries to put himself in between the two, though he begins to warm up to Cade after hearing what he went through with the Autobots. Cade's surprised to see any Transformer here on Earth, especially a Decepticon, but he's happy to help one in need if Michaela vouches for him. So while Michaela helps with the repairs, Cade and Sam trade war stories while Daniel absorbs it all. Cade mentions how the conflict put a wedge between him and his daughter, and he agrees with Sam that robot adventures aren't fun. They're the scariest thing he's ever done, aside from raising a kid, and that Sam's real bravery comes from trying to put up with a smart-mouthed teenager who doesn't realize how good he's got it. After getting Breakdown fixed up, the trio says goodbye to Cade, who leaves them with a word of wisdom. He heard a saying once, there can be no victory without sacrifice, but he's learned that not all victories are worth the cost. Sam, Daniel, Michaela, and Breakdown then reach the Texas factory at the same time Marissa and Megatron do in the alternate universe. And at the same time, both Null Scums are preparing to test their universe's energon grids. The humans engage in stealth to sneak through the facility using Sam's credentials and Michaela's street skills to gain access to Scum's office. And because Bayverse Transformers movies need a scene for a random comedian to show up and immediately date the film, they also have to contend with Jason Mantzoukas as Sam's frazzled counterpart at the Texas factory. Megatron and Marissa, on the other hand, are confronted by Ratchet, who leads Autobot-aligned soldiers that attack as soon as Megatron reveals himself. Marissa and Recluse use the opportunity to escape, heading for presumed safety in the factory. But instead of being welcomed, they're treated as Decepticon sympathizers and sent to join the other prisoners who have been enslaved to help manufacture new Autobot soldiers at the factory. Recluse is disassembled in a scene that would be way too gory and disturbing for a PG-13 movie if it were happening to a human, and Marissa finally understands that she's on the wrong side of the fight. When Megatron bursts through the wall to rescue her and tells the other prisoners to go free, Marissa agrees to help him fight back against the Autobots. Both groups reach Scum's office as both Scums activate their universe's energon grids. The system accepts Marissa's blood and her father's dog tags to access the deepest files, while Sam logs in with his credentials and a few hacking tricks Michaela says she learned from another member of her online Transformers group. We can mention the hackers from the first movie, but we're not putting them in as characters. There's too many characters already. Both groups gain access to Scum's computer and learn about Project Nova, a plan to connect all the energon on the planet to a Cybertronian artifact found in a Utah mine, the Blade of Time, which Scum believes will allow him to harness not just the energon from Earth, but that of a parallel reality as well. As both Scums activate their energon networks, there is an overload, a flash of bright light, and a break in reality, and for a moment, the two universes can see each other. In the Shattered Glass universe, Scum cuts the power. It's too dangerous to keep testing. But in our universe, Scum keeps going. He needs to find where the rogue Decepticon wiki disappeared to. He finds the energon reading at his factory in Texas. Actually, make that 2 energon readings. The system then overloads, and an energon pulse blasts from the factory. Lennox's plane also registers the massive energon spike, and he diverts course to Texas. On the factory floor, Scum's vehicles begin moving, transforming into monstrous creatures like the beings created by the Allspark, Terrorcons. Before anyone can react to Megatron appearing right in front of them, the Terrorcons attack, with Megatron shielding the humans from harm and Breakdown reuniting with his commander. Marissa helps Daniel and his parents get to safety, but the Terrorcons are loose, and despite Megatron and Breakdown's help, there's too many of them. Until they hear a plane overhead, which dumps 4 vehicles out the back of the hatch for the requisite arrival to Earth scene. 4 Autobots transform and attack, facing off against both the Terrorcons and the alternate universe Decepticons. Bumblebee goes right for Megatron while Breakdown tries to get Bumblebee to stop. Only when Sam intervenes does Bumblebee cease his attack. When the Terracons are dealt with and the dust settles, Bumblebee and Sam have a chance to reunite, while Breakdown and Megatron explain the situation, which Bumblebee and the Autobots have a hard time accepting. Bumblebee signals for Lennox's plane to land, and when he does, he sees Marissa, who runs to him and holds him tight, because even though his daughter is safely at college, this is the first time she's seen her father alive in years. The existence of Marissa helps to convince everyone that this multiversal adventure is real, and the group plans their next steps. The artifact seems to be the key to the breaches, and getting it out of Scum's hands should be their priority, both to allow Breakdown and Megatron to return home, and to keep the Autobot Empire from the other universe from crossing over. Since this world hasn't been subjugated, Megatron asks how humanity managed to defeat the Autobots here, but the humans tell him that actually the Autobots are the heroes, and this universe's Megatron is dead. Megatron finds this amusing, and asks to meet this world's Optimus Prime. Lennox then takes the crew to Cybertron, and while Megatron is initially treated like a demon returned from hell, Optimus is willing to talk to him, and the two connect as brothers, with Optimus seeing in this Megatron the person his Megatron used to be, and Megatron seeing a side to Optimus that makes him think that his universe's Prime may have once had a good heart. Together, the crew formulate a plan. Scum's scheduled to bring the entire Energon grid online soon, and connected to the artifact, it might create a breach large enough to allow Optimus and the Autobots from the Shattered Glass universe to invade. Megatron adds that his Null Scum is also experimenting with a similar artifact at the behest of the Autobots, and his Optimus is planning a major activation as well. The group gets Secretary of Defense Morshower in on the plan to retrieve the artifact, and he says that he'll do what he can to get the EDC mobilized in case everything goes to hell and the other world tries invading. In order to reach Utah quickly, the Autobots borrow the Collector's smuggling vessel, which has an illegal and only partially functional cloaking device. Now joined by Optimus, who scans one of the Collector's trucks for the journey, the group travels to the Bingham Canyon mine in Utah, where the Blade of Time has been uncovered at the lowest point of the excavation, 1,200 meters below the surface of the Earth. Scum and Quinn are preparing for their next test, which is interrupted by the arrival of the Autobots, the Decepticons from the alternate reality, and their human allies. Optimus immediately recognizes Quinn as Quintessa, the deceiver who tried to restore Cybertron by draining Earth's energy. Quintessa is forced to reveal her true form, and she tells Optimus that the blade in the mine is not the only one. There's a copy in the reality on the other side of the mirror, and Unicron can only be defeated by merging both blades, and therefore merging Unicron with Primus, which will kill both Earths in the process. She forces Scum to go ahead with the plan, and as the Energon network powers up, Quintessa grabs the sword and tears it out of its resting place, just as the evil Optimus Prime from the other world does the same. The removal of the blades creates a tear in reality, allowing the other Optimus and his elite Autobots to come through. And while many of his Autobots would be recognizably nostalgic throwbacks to the older movies, Optimus himself would have a unique design, justifying the ability to sell 2 Optimus Prime toys at retail instead of just 1. As he blasts Scum and the other scientists and engineers at the site, the Dark Optimus claims this world for the Autobot Empire. The Mirror Optimus demands the other blade from Quintessa, but she refuses, and a 3-way battle begins as Quintessa uses her sword to bring the vehicles in the mine to life as Terracons. Scum's helicopter becomes a hulking brute called Cyclonus, which will be incredibly disappointing for fans who may have wanted to see a version of the character that actually has a personality. During the frantic battle in the mine, the heroes are able to obtain Quintessa's blade and attempt to retreat with it to Cybertron, which is heavily guarded by both the Autobots and the EDC. Cyclonus gives chase, and thanks to the Autobot shuttle's cloaking device giving out, he manages to cripple the ship, sending it spiraling into downtown Manhattan. Remember, this is a Bayverse movie. Geography isn't really a major concern, and New York is a major world city that hasn't yet been blown up by the Transformers. It's also thematically relevant, bringing all those 9/11 anxieties full circle. In order to chase the blade, the other Optimus uses his copy to slice a hole in reality and step through into New York. With the 2 blades being in close proximity, more tears in reality start to appear, with our New York becoming intertwined with the destroyed version from the other universe, and more evil Autobots pouring through, along with the human troops that serve them. And because he hasn't yet appeared in this movie, we can say that an oddly dark and threatening version of Seymour Simmons is the leader of the Shattered Glass Human Alliance. As the EDC arrives to help fight the invaders, the heroes work to keep the blade out of the hands of Quintessa and the other Optimus, with Daniel having the chance to save the weapon at the cost of letting his parents die. But he doesn't. He allows Quintessa to retrieve the blade in order to save his family. He's decided that that some sacrifices aren't worth the victory. This also allows Daniel's arc to tie into the broader themes of the story. He's choosing to reject the weapons that Quintessa, the other Optimus, and even the Autobots in the EDC are fighting to obtain, and his rejection sets the stage for what could be a lasting peace. Marissa and Lennox next work together to take down Cyclonus, while Megatron and Optimus battle against the evil Optimus from the other world. Our Optimus is injured in a weak spot that Megatron realizes his Optimus might also have, and strikes a decisive blow against the tyrant. But with Megatron and our Optimus both reeling from the fight, Quintessa takes the opportunity to steal the other sword, and begins the process of merging the two universes together, declaring that all shall become one. Optimus, who still wields the Matrix of Leadership, plans to use its power to destroy Quintessa and the Blades. Megatron warns him that the Matrix alone might not be enough to defeat her and he'll die in the process, but Optimus has no choice but to try. Megatron clarifies, one Matrix isn't strong enough, but two are, revealing that he is the bearer of the Matrix in his universe, granted to him by the Primus that slumbers within his Earth. Together, Megatron and Optimus battle against Quintessa and tear the blade from her grasp, destroying her in the process. But that doesn't solve the problem of Unicron. Now recombined with Primus, their ancient battle continues, with pieces of both ancient gods rending the surface of the planet around them. Megatron and Optimus know that as long as Primus and Unicron coexist, they'll be at war with one another. But, empowered by their matrices and wielding the Blade of Time, they're able to do what Vector Prime did so long ago and split the universes again, with Optimus promising to remain vigilant against Unicron. But Megatron has another plan. The Autobots and humans of his Earth have already destroyed their world, but there's still a chance to save this one. As the sword is split, the blade tied to Unicron ends up in Megatron's hands, and the blade of Primus goes with Optimus. Primus now lives dormant within the Earth, while Unicron is banished to the other dimension. As Megatron, Breakdown, and Marissa fade back into the other side of the mirror, Optimus spools up his end-of-movie narration and we get a glimpse of where things go from there. The Autobots are welcomed back to Earth by the EDC, forging a future together without Unicron's corrupting influence. Megatron and Marissa return to their ruined planet, but with the memory of a better world now driving them to improve their own. Daniel is now more understanding of what his parents really went through during their adventures, and is glad to help his mom fix the car she built for him, after retrieving it from the impound lot he was towed to. And Optimus vows to remember that there's good in everyone, and even his greatest enemies may have more to them than meets the eye. Which is kind of a stupid ending. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I didn't spend too much time on the story because I didn't want this video to take months and months to make. But this is a Bayverse movie. It's gonna be janky when it comes to the story, and it's also not a real movie. It's just my idea. And other fans have had other ideas that might actually be good, or at least ideas they've spent more time on and line up with their own tastes. There's a lot of fan fiction and fan films out there that tell the story of what could happen after the last night. And whatever ends up actually being in Michael Bay's next Transformers movie, it's probably going to be disappointing. An entire generation of Transformers fans grew up with these movies, and they've had a decade to imagine what might happen next. So I kind of hope that Bay's next Transformers movie never happens, because if it does, it means that Schrodinger's box of possibilities will finally open, and most fans are just going to end up seeing a dead cat. Legacy sequels are tough. Even franchises that don't have decades of alternate continuity to invalidate still have the imagination of fans, and every single one of those fans, except the ones making the movie, are gonna be wrong. The answer to the question, how should the Bayverse end, is that maybe it shouldn't. Maybe it should live on in the minds of fans who can come up with stories that are immensely more satisfying to their own personal headcanons than any big-budget official production could ever hope to be. Maybe we need to learn the same lesson as world sex icon Stanley Tucci, that some things just shouldn't be invented.